She's so rotten, she wants migrants picking cotton. We present to you Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who made this shocking argument why America needs immigrants. Roll it, Alfred.
So I had to go around the country and educate people about what immigrants do for this country, or the fact that we are a country of immigrants.
Right.
The fact is, ain't none of y'all trying to go and farm right now. Okay, so I'm lying. Raise your hands.
This is when the wheels fall off.
You're not.
It kicked off with a congressional scene that spun fast into a full-blown public roast. Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett stepped into the spotlight and dropped a line that froze the room. She claimed America needed immigrants because, as she said, "None of y'all are about to go farm right now." The statement was not only bold, it was the type that sparks instant reactions online, dividing people in seconds. But this time, Twitter was not her biggest concern. Instead, she was sitting across from two of the sharpest, most unapologetic voices in political media. On one side sat a late-night firebrand with a razor tongue, the kind who could flip a policy chat into a comedy roast in seconds. On the other side was a calm, precise critic who did not just challenge points, but stripped them bare until silence was all that remained together. They had no plan to exchange pleasantries. They were there to cut through her polished act and reveal the truth behind the smile. What followed was not just debate. It was pure spectacle, the air heavy, the tension rising with each question, and the sense that someone was about to get verbally crushed before we keep going. Remember to like this video and subscribe, because that helps us grow and deliver more stories. Now back to the moment, because what came next turned a hot exchange into one of the biggest political takedowns of the year. From the very first minutes, it was clear this was not about policy or data. It was about performance. Jasmine Crockett was not only answering, she was performing for the cameras, layering her words with attitude, firing back with sharp one-liners and tossing side eyes as if it were part of her entire strategy.
That's what she does. She puts out this video of her acting in a certain way, and that's how she fundraises.
Mm-hmm. We actually did a bit of a deep dive on her after my old colleague from Fox News, Todd Starnes, posted something on X not long ago, Walter. He posted the following: Jasmine Crockett wants you to think she's from the hood, that she grew up on the streets. The exact opposite is true. She attended an exclusive day school where tuition is nearly $35,000 a year. She also attended Rhodes College, a private school where tuition is nearly $55,000 a year. She's cosplaying a gangsta. So we looked up her background. She was born in St. Louis. She's 43. Her dad was a Baptist pastor and a teacher. Her mother worked in a post office. She graduated from Mary Institute and St. Louis Country Day School, one of the most expensive private schools in the city. Indeed, the current tuition, $35,000.
Every pause, every tilt of her head felt rehearsed, as if it was designed for the camera instead of the chamber. It did not look like a serious exchange. It looked like a clip crafted for social media rather than a defense of policy. Instead of laying out facts or standing firm on her words, she leaned deeper into the spectacle. It had the air of a reality show reunion, not a congressional proceeding. The atmosphere shifted. The room was no longer a forum for debate. It had become a performance. Some in her corner may have laughed or cheered, but across from her sat two figures unmoved. They were not there for flair. They wanted substance, and the more she served up attitude, the clearer it became. She was evading answers. The very cameras she used as props began to turn on her. Every smirk, every sharp retort captured and stripped of the crowd reaction she counted on. It was style without weight, and her opponents sensed it from the start. That was when the late-night voice struck. He did not argue point for point. He sliced with wit, delivering a stream of sarcastic barbs, each one cleaner and sharper than the last. It felt less like a hearing and more like a roast battle happening live, and instead of a rowdy club, the audience was officials and watchers caught between disbelief and discomfort. He never shouted, never pounded the table, just steady precision, cutting her talking points down to scraps, every jab sharper than any long lecture, her lines treated like coupons. long expired, worthless on arrival, and the damage showed. The once confident grin began to falter. Her words lost rhythm. Her pace grew shaky for every flash she tried to throw. He had a comeback that landed heavier. It was not chaos. It was measured. Demolition. And all the while, the one who could deliver the hardest blow had yet to even lean in.
Jasmine Crockett's got another hot take. No blacks and whites on a wedding cake. The Democrats' new chosen one, Jasmine Crockett, is in the news again for an old clip where she attacked Florida Rep Byron Donalds for marrying a white woman. Roll it, Bertha.
The fact that you sitting around talking about life was better under Jim Crow, is this because you don't understand history, or literally it's because you married a white woman and so you think that whitewashed you?
That's not very woke, is it?
Across the table, the second figure waited in silence, letting her partner carry the weight. But the moment she leaned forward, the air shifted. The jokes faded, and precision replaced spectacle when her voice finally broke through the noise it was. Steady calm, deliberate a scalpel instead of a sledgehammer. She did not waste energy on insults. She went straight to the record. Her tone carried the weight of someone who had studied every page twice over. And now she unfolded pieces of Jasmine, Crockett's story that clashed with the public image she had been performing. The rough childhood, the hard climb from the streets peeled back to reveal something far different. Elite private schools with tuition higher than most families could. Dream of a father leading a congregation, a home rooted in stability, and a polished education that spoke of privilege rather than struggle. It was not simply about where she came from, it was about what she was selling now. The tough survivor persona did not match the reality, and the calm way it was exposed made the sting sharper with each fact. The hearing lost its tone. It felt like a courtroom where the judgment was already sealed. Every revelation stripped another layer from Crockett's. Confidence, her energy draining as the inconsistencies piled up. Then came the detail that electrified the room. The divide between the carefully curated from the hood image and the truth of an advantaged upbringing. The audience could see the gap. It was not just background, it was branding, and the revelation shook more than pride. It struck at the core of her political identity. This was not authenticity. This was theater designer jackets traded in for credibility, staged accents replacing natural cadence. Every exaggerated look she tossed toward the cameras now seemed like part of the costume. The more they unraveled, the more the entire act came apart. This was no slip of the tongue, no misphrased comment. It was a chosen strategy, a crafted mask meant to resonate in certain spaces even when it contradicted the truth. The worst part was the energy in the room shifting against her. The applause lines she relied on fell flat. This was not social media where followers drowned. Out dissent, this was live and unfiltered, and the truth was louder than hashtags.
Leftist hypocrisy and cluelessness. Jasmine Crockett is a rising star amongst the far-left progressives in this country. She's a representative from Houston, Texas, of all places, which makes no sense because she seems to be far too left for Houston, but apparently not because they elected her. It must be like, Orange County in California being like the one outlier in an otherwise uniformly state, like all red with the one blue, all blue with the one red. Okay. So Jasmine Crockett got up at a Los Angeles dinner this past Saturday, and it was hosted by, this is perfect.
Then the attention turned not only to her story, but to her style. Her critics framed her as the emblem of a new kind of politician, one built not on policy but on platform. Someone who lived for the clip reels more than the congressional record. They described her brand as surface with no substance. Quick smirks meant to turn into memes, rehearsed catchphrases for the nightly highlight reels, and perfectly timed sighs and eye rolls filling the space where real debate should have been. It was influencer culture wearing the uniform of governance. The accusation was brutal. Instead of producing laws, she was accused of chasing moments, flashes that trend for hours, but fade without leaving change behind in their view. Her career was not held up by results, but by reactions, and reactions do not last. That charge stung because it stripped her of seriousness. If the performance is everything, what remains? When the cameras shut down, the answer lingered in silence. Nothing tangible. Nothing. That mattered, and in a chamber where real influence comes from what is delivered. Emptiness thundered louder than applause, and then like fuel tossed on flame came the resurfaced footage. A past moment where Jasmine Crockett had gone after Florida. Representative Byron Donalds not for policy, not for strategy, but for marrying a white woman.
Is she making any point there?
Like this makes me wish my mom made different father choices.
It all began with a heated congressional exchange that rapidly escalated into something closer to a televised roast than a political discussion. Democratic Representative Jasmine Crockett seized the spotlight with her striking remark claiming that the United States depends on immigrants, since, as she boldly stated, none of you are rushing out to till the fields today. It was more than a bold comment. It was the type of line that instantly ignites social platforms and divides audiences. In seconds. Yet this time the challenge did not come from faceless critics online. It came from two of the sharpest and most unrelenting figures in political commentary. On one side was a fiery, late-night personality armed with razor-wit someone, capable of flipping a policy debate into comedic devastation in a single breath. While on the other side sat a calm, analytical figure, the kind of voice that dismantles arguments with precision facts and unshakable logic together. They were not positioned to exchange pleasantries. They were there to pull apart her polished persona and expose what lay underneath, and what followed was not simply an argument, but an unfolding spectacle. The kind where tension thickens with every pause, and the audience senses someone is about to be verbally dismantled before we press on. Remember to like this video and subscribe. It really helps us grow and keep bringing you stories like this. Now let us continue, because what happened next transformed a tense encounter into one of the most memorable political breakdowns of the year. From the start, it was evident this was not going to be about dry policy points or detailed legislative plans. It was theater performance and optics. Jasmine Crockett was not answering with straightforward explanations. She was posturing for the cameras, delivering attitude-filled remarks, snappy one-liners, and sharp side glances as if they were strategic weapons. Every pause, every tilt of her head seemed designed for replay value on social platforms rather than to strengthen her case instead of solid evidence or thoughtful reasoning. She leaned harder into spectacle like a cast member on a reality reunion show instead of a legislator addressing serious issues. The mood in the room shifted. The hearing felt more like a stage play. And while her allies might have found it entertaining, the figures across from her were unimpressed. They smelled performance without content, and the more she pushed into dramatic flair, the more obvious it became that answers were being dodged. The very cameras that had always elevated her now turned into her trap recording, every exaggerated expression and every comeback ready to replay without the audience applause. She anticipated it was all style over depth, and that was when the late-night firebrand made his move. Instead of shouting or pounding the table, he dismantled her with sarcastic remarks sharpened to perfection, each one more cutting than the last. It resembled a roast battle. Except the crowd was not fans in a comedy club, but officials and viewers watching in disbelief with every jab. Her arguments shrank. Her confident smirk faltered, her rhythm broke, and though she kept firing flashy lines, his comebacks struck with heavier force. It was not chaotic, it was methodical demolition, but the real dissection had not even begun. The second figure had been quiet until then, calmly watching and letting the first wave soften her opponent. But when she finally leaned in, the entire room shifted. The humor was replaced with surgical precision. Gone were the sarcastic tones and smirks. Instead came a steady, controlled voice that cut like a scalpel rather than a blade. She did not waste time with. Flashy rhetoric, she deployed facts drawn with meticulous care, pulling threads directly from Jasmine Crockett's personal history and public image. She stripped away the tale of hardship, the narrative of a rough upbringing to reveal a reality. Far different private schools with heavy tuition, a pastor father, a stable home, and an elite education. It was not just where she had come from, it was how she had packaged it. She was selling the image of a gritty fighter molded by struggle, yet the truth-painted privilege and polish her critics framed it as performance, a costume of survival layered over advantage, and the calm delivery made it sting even more. No space remained for rebuttal. Each fact landed like a gavel in a courtroom. The carefully curated Hood narrative shattered under the weight of undeniable contrast. It was not just embarrassing, it was brand-shattering, and as the inconsistencies piled up, the energy drained from her performance. Every contradiction between her cultivated image and her authentic past became another crack in the wall, and once the image fractured, it was difficult to hold it together. From there, the dismantlers painted her as the definition of a social media politician, a figure chasing fleeting moments rather than lasting policy wins to them. Her presence was all flash and no substance, with quick facial reactions and rehearsed sound bites replacing meaningful discussion. GIFs, hashtags, and viral clips became her platform instead of legislative victories. And that comparison hit hard because it ripped away any claim to seriousness. What remains when the cameras shut off, if your influence depends solely on reactions? The answer hung silent and heavy in the room. Nothing stood. There, without performance, no foundation was left for credibility in a chamber where real power comes from results, not retweets. The silence cut deeper than any heckle, and just when the tension peaked, they resurfaced the controversial clip where Jasmine Crockett had mocked Florida Representative Byron Donalds for marrying a white woman, accusing him of being disconnected from his heritage. That clip alone would be explosive, but in the middle of this takedown, it became a wrecking ball. They replayed the footage, and the contradiction was impossible to miss. A woman who spoke often about inclusivity was weaponizing personal relationships as insults. It was labeled hypocrisy, plain and devastating. The late-night host twisted the knife. With sharp humor, while the calm analyst allowed the evidence to linger, the contradiction spoke louder than their words. By now, the showmanship Jasmine Crockett had entered with was gone. Her attempts to hold the stage dissolved under the mountain of clips, facts, contradictions, and receipts stacked against her. Her legislative record came under fire as her opponents pointed out the emptiness of her accomplishments: no landmark bills, no transformative reforms, no legacy of governance, only viral speeches and fleeting headlines. She treated hearings like audition stages and conferences like photo shoots, while the true grind of governing left little evidence. Her voice and speaking style were even held against her old footage compared to. New clips suggested a shift in tone from professional and measured to exaggerated, slang-filled cadence painting. Her presence as a deliberate performance instead of natural expression. The argument crystallized. She was obsessed with clout over governance, a politician treating power like a stage play. Every pause, every gesture rehearsed for a trending clip instead of meaningful change. They compared her to a microwave dinner promising substance, but leaving only noise without nourishment. In Congress, the spotlight fades quickly, but the record remains, and theirs concluded. Her record was paper-thin when she attempted a grand applause line. It landed in silence, a silence heavier than mockery across the table. The late-night comic smirked. While the precise dismantler remained motionless, the unspoken message was final. Her argument had collapsed not from volume or insults, but from its own hollowness, and the entire spectacle revealed a truth that no camera trick or viral clip could disguise.